Okay, I am way brain fried. I'm running on 3.5 hours of sleep, and I just did like an hour and 50 minutes of lives, but I promised folks I would cover this topic, and then I may take a break for the evening. We'll see. I did like a 45-minute live on my backup about unschooling, and my eldest kid came and joined. She's 23, and she was sharing her experience having been unschooled. And then on my main account, I did an hour and 10-minute live on the 12 principles of permaculture. And I don't know if people on that live could tell. First of all, they could tell I don't have any real eyelashes in real life. I don't know if people could tell, I get really jazzed talking about growing plants. I get really, really excited to talk about permaculture design. So I am happy to do so many lives on that, like endless numbers of lives on all of the details and intricacies of permaculture design. But in that live, I was trying to talk about this 12th principle of permaculture, where we are supposed to creatively use and respond to change. That is a really difficult one right now, especially when you feel like the change is really negative. And I referenced this actually a little bit in my last video on this account, where I was talking about how big ag is really making things unsustainable for our farmers, driving up our food prices, and they think that they're just like rolling out their big terrible plan and there's nothing we can do about it. But what we're seeing is farmers around the country are saying, you know what, we need to learn to operate in a new way. This is unsustainable. It's exploitive. We need to adapt and change and find new ways to get our crops to market, new ways to make sure that people are getting fed, and we are able to continue doing this very necessary job of growing food for the American people. I featured a video where a farmer was talking about how big ag canceled all of his contracts, right? I think a lot of that has to do with Elon Musk, like USAID. USAID was supplying necessary food aid to the world's poor. Elon Musk cut all of that off because, he's being investigated. So that was all that retribution. That has launched a holocaust against the world's poorest. The Lancet has said as many as 14 million people will die because Elon Musk and Donald Trump ended USAID. This is the drum that I will keep beating. This is the story that I think we've got to tell every single day. Not enough people are talking about the devastating consequences of Elon Musk and Donald Trump illegally gutting USAID. Secondary consequence, our farmers were growing that food to ship overseas to feed starving people. What was it? 80% of the world's food aid to Sudan, food and medical aid to Sudan, was supplied through USAID. All gone. But our farmers then had all these crops that they thought they were going to have contracts for: sorghum and corn and soy and wheat. A lot of commodities, but also like things like peanuts, dried milk that our dairy farmers were producing. All of that no longer being sold to USAID. And so these farmers had their contracts canceled, and they could either go out of business or they could adapt. So this guy was saying he sold all his corn locally. He decided to make peanut brittle with all of his peanuts and started a peanut brittle business, sold all of it already. He was like, I'm going to use that permaculture principle. He didn't expressly say this, but that's what he was doing. Creatively use and respond to change. Instead of being like, this is devastation. There's nothing, we're just cooked. It's all over. I'm screwed. I might as well just sell the farm and move on to something else. He was like, no, I'm not giving up my farm. I'm not giving up my livelihood. I'm going to have all of this food sitting here. I need to find a way to get it to market. I can't trust big ag, can't work with big ag. They're out to screw over farmers, and they're not going to do business with me. Fine, I'm not going to do business with them. I'm going to find another way. That is creatively use and respond to change. And in this live today, I didn't really have time. I was running out of time. I didn't get to go through that 12th principle extensively. So I just barely touched on an illustration that I think helps people understand this principle and understand what we need to be doing as the American people when something bad happens. When something bad is done to us by the regime, by big corporations, when they try to do something terrible and they want it to have a negative impact on us. Creatively use and respond to change says, I'm going to take this change that is being enacted. I'm going to step back and try and view it through a neutral lens. That can be really hard because the regime really, like asking me to say, ending USAID, how can that possibly be neutral? That's got to be how is that anything other than terrible? No, this is just an exercise to help us design to respond creatively. Okay, let's observe. Let's take tabs of what's actually happening. What is this change doing? What are the different elements at play, and what are they missing? This goes along with how when the regime does something terrible, we have to make sure that it comes back to bite them in the butt. We invoke the backlash effect. The backlash effect is very much creatively responding to change. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to use this for my benefit. I'm going to use this to blow up in your face. I'm going to make sure that this has positive outcomes for me and my movement, and it hurts the oppressor. It's saying they want this to be harm, but I am going to take it as a chance to do good. I'm going to take it as an opportunity to advance my cause, even though they think it's going to advance theirs. No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm going to use this for me. I'm going to use this for good. So the illustration in ecology is like basic college ecology, right? Like your 200 level ecology course. When you have a system like a forest, let's take a really diverse forest. Let's make it subtropical, right? You have a mature canopy and a tree, you have a big storm come in, lightning strikes a tree, it falls. And maybe that tree was really valuable to you. You had a high level of value for it. Either it served a purpose in your system, it was growing food, like maybe it's a giant avocado or something. Or maybe you just enjoyed it for the shade, or you were waiting to use it for lumber. Instead, now it's been struck by lightning and it's down, not savable. Well, shit, that seems like a bad thing, right? This beautiful forest, beautiful tree struck down. That's just such a loss. Except creatively using and responding to change is saying, actually, you know what? In my system, we produce no waste. Nothing is waste. Everything is a resource for which we need to find a use. Everything can be used to advance our system. At the very least, to minimize harm. At the very least, to make sure that we are not wasting any potential for good, to make our system more diverse and abundant, to help advance our cause, etc., right? We don't want to miss out on an opportunity because we are perceiving what is happening through the lens of whoever is doing harm, or specifically through the lens of negativity and of loss. So the tree is struck down. Well, crap, we've lost this tree. But what is the good that's come out of that? What is it that we need to do? In permaculture, principle number 1 is observe and interact. So we see a big change come in, a big change, like a fallen tree. Instead of being devastated, we're going to be neutral. We're going to step back and observe what happened. What has changed in my system as a result of that tree falling? Is it all really bad? Is it really just loss, or is there something else going on here? Wait a minute. Suddenly that closed canopy is now opened up, and look, I'm observing all of this sunlight coming into my system. Wow, that's a resource, right? That's energy, pure energy coming into my system that was being blocked by this tree before. That is a change. That is something I could use, I could harness for good. This downed tree is now this is now habitat for all kinds of critters and creatures, fungi, for, detritivores, like all kinds of creatures, micro and macro invertebrates. This is a home for them. Or, you know what? Maybe part of this tree is salvageable and I can still use it for lumber. Or maybe part of this tree is still salvageable for other purposes. Maybe it's something good for furniture. Maybe it's just good for chipping up and using as compost. Maybe I just want to leave it there and let it be habitat and see what grows up around it. Maybe that tree can be a nurse log for babies, especially now that we have all of this sunlight coming into the system. We're going to have all of these dormant seeds in the soil that are going to be like, wow, look at all this energy. And boom, they're going to germinate. We're going to get all kinds of new growth. The loss of a mature tree and a mature forest, that is an opportunity for growth. That is the system creatively responding to that disturbance, to that change, by producing a flush of new life. So much was sitting there waiting, dormant, just hoping and praying and waiting for that disturbance to happen. That change of the loss of the tree does not have to be all negative. And in this scenario, there's many ways that we can use that to our advantage. Cool, you can come in and plant new crops. You could grow edible mushrooms on the log. You could use that log for so many purposes, that tree for so many purposes, but also nature itself will do something with that change. Nature itself already understands how to creatively use and respond to change. And it's up to us to do the same thing. And I think if we look at that example of a tree falling in a mature forest, and we look at that disturbance and we say, how can we use that for good? What is the way that we can apply all of that thinking, all of that framework to what's happening in this country right now? How can we apply that to social movements? How can we apply that to resistance? See, I told you permaculture was applicable to everything. It is not just gardening. It's not just gardening. And anytime y'all will let me talk about it more, just say go and I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about permaculture. So thank you. Thanks for the live today. And thanks for letting me explain here as well.